Let me show you guys this. So this is absolutely crazy, but a lot of people, and like I even talked about this in my critique, Elden Ring is very breakable, okay? It's breakable. Does that mean that it's bad? Well, no, but it's breakable. And what we mean by that is that the developers allow you to just poke and prod and stretch and bend things any which way in order to get one up on the developer or on the game. And it's kind of refreshing because Elden Ring is so punishing that the fact they let you punish the game back is just funny. It's great. So watch what this guy did. He's got, let me just say, he is playing and he's on New Game 7 plus. 7 plus. So the health bars are insane. Damage required to go head to head is insane. But this guy is just about as min-maxed as you could possibly be. I'm about to show the last fight in the entire game against Elden Beast and Radagon. So just be aware in case you don't want spoilers. This is end game. Yeah, this guy, so you complete the game and you do New Game Plus. That's New Game 1 Plus. You complete New Game Plus, you go to New Game 2 Plus. This guy's on New Game 7 Plus. Watch this. Just watch this. He broke it. Oh my God, it's Jason Bourne. What does he do next? Oh, the cutscene.
A fracture.
So yeah, it's pretty broken. I'm kind of conflicted about this stuff because on the one hand, like, is this what the developers had in mind? I honestly don't know. But like, this is cool. Like, they empowered their players to do this. And my mind's like, I've flip-flopped on this a few times because I see both sides of it. Some people look at this and they see, oh, it's unbalanced. The fact that you can one-shot New Game 7 Plus bosses is just broken. So they need to nerf Ancient Dragons. But that is only true if the presumption is that the goal of the game is to make every single fight miserably difficult. But I don't think that is the goal. I think the goal is to try to empower the player to overcome great odds and defeat very difficult enemies. That's it. So if you do that by just going and bashing your head against the wall with a basic dull sword, and you spend 15 minutes on one little fight, okay, whatever. But if you also take the time and figure out how to min-max your character to the point where you can do this, I think that in and of itself is kind of a triumph. The player should be praised for doing this. Like, that's cool, you know? People are so split, but for me, bosses are either too strong or too easy based purely on your stats, and it does not feel fulfilling for me. I think there is something to say for certain bosses that have resistances to certain build types. So For example, my buddy Caleb, he was playing with like a faith build, which I believe this one is as well. But he was playing with a faith build and he ran into a boss. I don't remember which one, but it was like totally resistant to all faith damage. Like everything he specialized in, it just was highly resistant to. So he was miserable taking on these bosses. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of frustrating that you build your whole character around this one thing, and then just because you ran into a boss that's in the main story and it happens to have this particular loadout, you're screwed. I think there's a couple little changes. I wish I could remember the boss, but I wish there were a couple, they could make just a couple of changes where, like, for example, main story bosses required to get to the end of the game don't have stupid high resistances to those types of things. They might have low resistance, but just give them a bigger health pool. That would, in my opinion, fix the problem. If optional bosses have super high resistances to like slashing damage, I think that's fair. Like you didn't have to take on the boss, and if you really want to beat it, you can go respec, you know? I wish I could get into From Software games, but there are so many reasons why I can't gel with the company. What do you mean with the company? Oh, do you mean the community, ASA? I do understand that. And I think if that's what you mean, the community, what I will say, yeah, the bosses only get hard when you reach Fire Giant. I agree. The game like totally changes when you hit Fire Giant. But if you're talking about the community, I will just say, like, if you're a member of the FromSoft community, like very hardcore FromSoft fan, there are two types of you guys. And some of them are great. Some of them are pretty toxic. I'm keep it real, like keep it 100. Let me do this. There we go. I'll do this. So some of you guys are great. Some of you guys are tremendous. Others are a little toxic. The community can be very toxic because they have two factions. The one faction is very helpful and is like, oh, we just are glad that you're trying these games. Let us help you. These are the strategies. Try this, try that. One of the interesting things was like watching Cammy, for example, play Bloodborne, because she had both types of people in her chat. She had the people trying to be helpful and the people that were toxic and said, no. You're using a mimic tier. Put that away. Shut it down. Because if you use that, you're not actually playing the game. Yeah, you need to get good, the get good squad. And those people just complain if you don't happen to like their like engagement in misery. And I just don't buy that you need to be miserable in order to play these games. And I think time and time again, the developers have shown that they don't want you to just be miserable. They want the game to be challenging, but they want it to be challenging and rewarding, and they want you to be able to overcome that adversity. Why would I be fast? No, okay, take it on. And it sounds like simple, but there's so many people out there that are just, if you don't play the game in the particular way that they endorse, it's toxic. So how about Farming Simulator 2022? Dude, I've kind of wanted to try that. I'll be real. ASA, yeah, after rambling about all that. Sorry, I don't mean the community. I'm talking about the games themselves. A story that forces you to seek it out instead of being delivered in a competent way. The gameplay that is practically the same in every game with the exception of Sekiro. The process of banging your head against the wall until you beat a boss, at least for me, the countless moments I criticized From Software games and diehard fans became so toxic towards me. Definitely subjective. I can't beat the first boss. Yeah, so that's totally fair. The games won't be for everybody. And I do agree that the basic loadout of combat has been very stagnant for a long time. Elden Ring takes that formula. They add like summons to it, which I think are pretty interesting and cool. And the co-op can be really fun, and the variability in the combat can be really, really cool. And part of the reason they haven't changed it is because, frankly, in a lot of cases, they don't really need to. People keep buying it, keep playing it, and the people that connect with it really, really love it. Bloodborne changed some things in an interesting way, so there were only a few weapons. Well, there were a lot more than a few, but there were nowhere near the number of weapons that you see in like Dark Souls 3 or Elden Ring. Yeah, even this thing. So like this was a case where I was experimenting with the Sword of Night and Flame after one of the nerfs, and it just doesn't work. So you need to use the whatever serpent blade. I did so much experimentation with this. I was, what if I get close? Like, it's doing damage, and you could win with this, but it's nowhere near as practical as the other one. And of course, I totally miss it. Didn't even get the stab. Whack. But yeah, it's not for everybody. And I will say a lot of the fans turn off a lot of other people. They just do. And the point about the story is very, very fair. I don't think you play these games for the story. I know some diehard fans are like, oh, actually, Elden Ring has one of the most intense stories of any game that's released in the last 15 years. Like, okay, I'm sure it does. What we're saying is that it's communicated in a way that most people will just never engage with, you know? And that's what we're bringing up. I'm sure for you it has a very compelling story, very compelling narrative. You just didn't understand it. It's like, okay. Calm down. We're talking about how it's communicated, you know? Just came in. What are you doing? Revisiting Elden Ring? No, we were just actually looking at a video where somebody one-shots the last two bosses. Or last boss, technically, I guess. Using on New Game 7 Plus, by the way. So just absolutely wrecks the boss with this build that he's got. I don't know specifically what he's using, but it's some sort of like, you have to have the craze, and then you have to have like your damage has to be low, and then like the lower your damage is, the higher your damage output. It's something like that. But he just dealt 18, almost 19,000 damage in one strike. It's crazy. The worst for me is the art design. A lot of people think the game is beautiful. I just think the colors look gray, like a gray game from the PS3. It's nice that a lot of people love this. It's just really not for me. Yeah, and that's totally fine. I will say, like, I think the most standout game is Sekiro, and I still think that Sekiro is the most difficult game that they've ever made. But that was for me. A lot of people didn't think it was that hard because they play other rhythm games and it was fine. But for me, that rhythmic L1, 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 ba, 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 ba. It was just hard for me to connect with. Once I figured it out and once it clicked for me, the rest of the game was relatively easy. But that was far and away the most difficult game for me. I thought Elden Ring was probably one of the easier games they've put out. It's communicated in a way that you need to watch 3 hours of YouTube lore to understand why people keep asking to touch your fingers. Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Most of those diehard fans, I would even wager to say like 95, 99% of them that talk about how great the story of like Elden Ring is, did not absorb the story themselves. They watched one of the like lore videos, or 5 of them or 10 of them, in order to understand what was going on. And that's it. And then they're like, well, you just don't understand the story. I'm like, you didn't either until you watched a ton of videos. So come off it.